Yes. Hello, I'm back. Yes. Hello, 2022. Happy New Year. Okay, yes, sure. I hope you had a good break. Yes, obviously you don't need to ask if I had one. You obviously must know that I did not. As you would be aware, of course, it was all going fine until this very holy man died. And now I'm sad because, it's got me dwelling on the persecution of Christians like me and Pell.
If you go on Twitter today, you will see so much hate, vile celebration about George Pell's death. From not just lowlifes, but, former Senator Darren Hinch and all that kind of thing. It's just disgusting. George Pell would never have spoken about his enemies like some of his enemies are speaking about him today. The glee of his death, hoping that he died painfully, the abuse, the foul language. Pell would never have done that. He was a Christian.
He was a really good guy. No, he was a saint. And I'm trying to find the words for how good of a guy he was, but I'm too teary to say. Okay? And it's making it harder because of all these bad ABC lefties on Twitter. Look at this. Unchristian warning alert. Okay? Cardinal George Pell is short for Cardinal George probably in hell. This is terrible. This man, this saint, do you know how much he did for the big man upstairs? The big G man? Show some respect for the big G man, if not for Pell. Come on, ABC lefties. Stop it. Oh, look at this poor church. Oh, shameful conduct, ABC leftists. Woke mind virus lefties. How dare you? See, look, they've even made him like a little cute demon with little specks on it and everything. It's pretty cute. But shame on you. This is my favourite one. I mean, this is the worst one of all of them. With great sadness, the news is out that Cardinal George... Ta-da! Shameful! Evil left is so bad. Woke mind virus, how dare you? Pell never did anything wrong and it was all the ABC's fault, okay?
Victoria Police, who advertised for so-called victims, eventually found 9 people. They lodged 26 charges. All of those charges were so preposterous that they ultimately failed. Some didn't even make it to court. They were so intrinsically stupid. The merest investigation made them impossible to believe. George Pell is not a pedophile. He was innocent, he was cleared, and he was the victim of a shocking anti-Catholic and anti-conservative witch hunt. You can see it on Twitter for yourself.
Pell was convicted because of anti-Catholic hysteria and because he was the designated conservative public villain in the culture wars. Nothing to do with victims or a judge's decision or various judge decisions weighing up the evidence. Nothing. You know what it was? It was the woke mind virus that got this man charged with sexual assault of children. It happens all the time.
George Pell retained his faith in his God. He remained a man of faith, the sort of person that modern journalists don't seem to understand.
Very misunderstood. The sort of person these modern journalists from the ABC don't understand. The sort of person you'd leave your kids with. Just salt of the earth. The sort of man you'd leave your children in the care of with great confidence.
He was a true Christian trying to live up to the faith of Jesus Christ. I'm not a Christian, but I greatly admire that. And I think a lot of people today should remember him as having followed Christ in one thing. He was unfairly accused, he was crucified, and he died for the sins of others.
He's exactly the same. He's the sort of guy, just like Jesus Christ, he's the sort of guy you just leave your kids with and head down to the shops for a cuppa. Just so much trust for the welfare of your kids. Real Christ figure. Quick little pit stop here, guys. Come in for a quick chat with Uncle Tommy. You might notice that this is not a 2-hour video essay comprehensively documenting all of Pell's horrible life and misdeeds. What it is an 18-minute video for fun showing a pack of grubs sucking him off in death. If you want a comprehensive essay documenting all of Pell's horrible life and misdeeds, I know, why don't you go and fucking read one? I assume a degree of literacy and background reading in my followers because generally speaking, I find that smart, well-read cunts like me. So they probably already know about Pell's horrible life and misdeeds. I actually make videos for them, FYI, not to pander to a million cunts I don't already know. If you're a cunt who I don't know yet, and you don't think I've convinced you that Pell is a scumbag, go and read The Prince by David Marr or Cardinal by Louise Milligan first, preferably both. Then come enjoy me. Until then, remember, suck me off, whingers.
You know, it was Andrew Bolt who never left that corner of Cardinal Pell throughout the whole thing when the world had basically declared him guilty. The ABC were piling on. People like Andrew Bolt, his great friend Tony Abbott, and others were there always backing him in the corner. And I think that's a true mark of respect for all of them.
So true, Corey. Thank you so much for saying what's on all of our minds. You know, one of the highest markers of respect in my eyes is having the courage to steadfastly deny the testimony of victims when your mate is declared guilty of pedophilia. That's one of the most decent and brave things imaginable. And, you know, imagine how better off the world would be if every pedophile had a powerful guard of institutionally powerful friends to just stick up for them and write them character references and call all their victims liars. So powerfully brave. In fact, that's so brave that I don't think I'd be up to the task. I have to say this to all my friends. I don't think I'm this Christ-like or brave. I think if you get charged with pedophilia, I don't think I'll be brave enough to write you a character reference. Unlike the former Prime Minister, John Howard.
Former Prime Ministers John Howard and Tony Abbott have paid tribute to Cardinal George Pell.
Trivia time. What do John Howard and George Pell both have in common? Go. Time's up. Did you get it? Well, yes, they were both praised in Norwegian white supremacist mass shooter Andre Breivik's manifesto. Yeah, that's true, but that's not what I was getting at. No, what I'm saying is they both love to suck each other off, so to speak. I mean, that's strictly a euphemism for mutually adoring each other in public. Howard actually provided Pell with a glowing character reference at one of Pell's pedo trials. So obviously Howard's chucked a big sook since Pell went to the great downstairs, so to speak.
In a statement, Mr. Howard says the death of George Cardinal Pell in Rome has taken from us a person of enormous influence, not only in the Catholic Church, but in the nation more generally. His deep and compassionate faith sustained him during more than 400 days in prison for alleged crimes which many, me included, believed should have never been the subject.
Funny to think about his legacy of intervention. He's a real intervening kind of a guy, isn't he? Of course, there was a heavily decontextualised dossier of child sexual abuse around Central Australia that was then used in a deeply anti-Aboriginal and anti-human rights way by Howard in the mid-2000s to launch the NT intervention. And I remember that at that time the media was awash with stories about paedophile rings in the area, themselves either decontextualised or completely fucking fabricated. Funny to think about that. That was his intervention when it came to black people. However, his intervention when it came to a big white cardinal, also presiding over, or a direct witness possibly, to paedophile rings, was to write him a character reference. Loves his interventions, doesn't he, this guy? That's how we'll remember you, Johnny. Another former Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, also got very cosy with Pell in the confessional box, so to speak. He said his incarceration on charges that the High Court ultimately scathingly dismissed was a modern form of crucifixion, reputationally at least, a kind of living death. His prison journals should become a classic. Such a holy man, we will remember him for his letters from pedophile jail. There's a few other career politicians who also bravely squandered their already shit reputations on filling up Pell's evil corpse, so to speak. That's a euphemism for being nice about him, term of phrase. One of them, don't sue me for defamation, Peter Dutton. On his passing, the fact he spent a year in prison for a conviction that the High Court of Australia unanimously quashed should provide some cause for reflections for the Victorian Labor government and its institutions that led this modern-day political persecution. I didn't think that Labor controlled the County Court and Supreme Court judges, but I'm glad I've got a lifelong politician who I'm sure knows about the separation of powers here to dispel me of any illusions about the separation of powers. Bob Katter went the fuck in on what I reckon is probably the most entertaining bit of unbearably mawkish and yet fucking repulsive bit of praise for this dead, burning enemy of all Australian children. Let's have a read. I hope that Cardinal Pell's death will reinforce the persecution of Christians in Australia. Bit of a typo there, yes, sure, but I think also this letter absolutely reinforces the persecution of Christians in Australia. In fact, Katter demonstrates that he has a big old masochistic Catholic hard-on for feeling like every hard-done-by Catholic bloke is Jesus Christ Mark II. The mob that dealt with Pell, the anti-Christian mob, then set upon the evangelicals, savagely destroying Israel Folau and the 8 heroes at Manly. The persecution and jailing of Pell was evil, a man of powerful determination to do good, but the cruelty of final years remind us that as Christians, persecution is almost our delineating identification marker. Yeah, we are defined by how hard done by we are. What a shame that pedos die and go to hell. You know, it's the ABC's fault that pedos die, isn't it? Why can't they all be sainted by your righteous, jumped up fucking pity, mate? Now, look, man, the Australian and Sky News, they went to fucking bat for George Pell right away, and they did so hard. The Australian, I counted this, in the 24 hours alone following his death, published a whopping 26 articles. Sky News published 30. All of them sucking off his dead ped bod, so to speak. Euphemism, just a term of phrase. Yes, I just said the words dead ped bod, by the way. That's what Pell... That's what Pell has, a dead ped bod. It really rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Anyway, they were all praising his dead ped bod, just kneeling before it. Oh, praise your dead ped bod. All these articles. Now, if you go to any public page about Pell, it's mostly all see you in hell, welcome in hell, and so on. But friends of the channel, Boomer News, over on Instagram, have helpfully compiled some rare Boomer comments from the Australian pages, comments under the articles, praising Pell. Here's a small selection. I liked George Pell. You'd want him in the trenches with you. God bless him. Telltale boomer sign there. It's a dead giveaway for boomers. There's a little space separating the text from the punctuation. You can always pick him. I'd love him in the trenches with me. You know, he's the kind of guy you'd just leave in the trenches with your kids and go to the shops for a cuppa. You know what I mean? Just complete peace of mind, isn't he? Pell was a rock in a society of reeds. Oh, he was a rock, all right. A rock spider. I'm sorry, so obvious. I couldn't help that. I couldn't help myself. As the Air Force saying goes, you know you're over the correct target when you're taking flak. Oh yeah, all these lying kids came out and accused him just because he doesn't like abortions and condoms. Thank you so much to the legends at Boomer News. Go and check out Boomer News on Instagram. Shout out to them. Okay, Boomer. But then I started to notice something a bit weird about all this praise happening, particularly in the Australian column spaces, but also in other cheerleading factions for Pell, of which there are few. Check this out. It is fair to say that a lot of people didn't like Cardinal George Pell. I'm not sure why, as my brief encounters with the man were perfectly pleasant. A little bit of ultra-conservative clout wrangling here. Actually, I knew the guy, so...
The last time he rang me was from Rome a few months ago. And the thing that was bothering him was whether I'd converted to Christianity. I hadn't, and I was apologetic. He even sent me books to help me in my journey, and I felt really guilty about it.
When I last talked to him, that is me personally, when I happened to personally, me in person, catch up with him actually, I
had the great pleasure of dining with him, meeting him on a number of occasions, and because he was just a considered gentleman of the true Christian piety.
We always had lots to talk about. News, politics, articles, books, cricket, travel, family, occasionally. When we met at lunch, I said to Pell that I hoped he was not upset at my comment. I last spoke to him on the phone at Christmas. Typically, he'd rung to wish me and my family well. Once, many years ago, I rightly felt I'd been much too aggressive in an argument with him. We didn't meet for a while. I rang and suggested lunch, to which he readily agreed. 6 writers, no less, for The Australian, and also multiple Sky News talking heads, all saying they were personally chums with him. Half of the cunts with a platform waging this desperate little reactive culture war response trying to defend Pell are his best fucking mates. Well, what the fuck are we going to listen to you cunts about him for then?
Has the government received any request to host a state memorial service?
No, and there won't be a state memorial service. I couldn't think of anything that would be more distressing for victim survivors than that.
The decision by Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews to not offer a state or memorial service for Pell because of allegations of sexual abuse smacks of hypocrisy. Here's what I propose, okay? Hear me out. Hear me out as a Christian. All us Christians line up on either side of Swanston Street like we're getting ready for the Moomba Parade. And they roll his coffin along, down the street, open coffin, open body, on a little skateboard, and we all drink 2 litres of water 30 minutes beforehand, like we're going for a bladder ultrasound or something. So, and then, as his coffin's rolling by, we all wee into it. And then, at the other end of Swanston Street, say around like where the State Library is, they put a big oven right at the tram stop there, with a little entry in the side, so his wee-drenched coffin wee bath just rolls straight into the oven there at the end of it, once we've all weed in there, and it burns him up and sends him straight down to hell, along with all of our wee. Sending him, it's like our wee is a parting gift for him. Let's get that state funeral going for old Hellboy over there.
He did things like question the global warming religion, which he correctly saw as a rival faith to the Christian one. He did all that. In the end, it was only in the last few years that it was, and he's a pedophile as well. Oh, and he's a pedophile as well. Oh, and he's a pedophile as well.